let's just jump to The Star Is Born. I think a film we both liked a lot more. If you follow us on Twitter, at Genie World Peace and at Martin Swagger, and follow the pod at Nowstalgia Pod. Um, yeah, the pad, the pad. I'm pad on Twitter. The Star Is Born. I mean, man, this is gonna be a force of the award shows. It's gonna be um, Gaga, Bradley Cooper, hopefully Charlie as well. Are going to be getting some love on the award circuit. Um, I wanted to start maybe with, um, yeah, this is a remake of a couple of old films. Have you watched any of the previous A Star Is Born? Because I haven't. I wanted to just be upfront about that.
Yeah, I've seen some of the most recent one in 1976. That's the
Babs.
one with Barbara Streisand and Chris Christopherson, which is not very good. I did have some positive influences on music and films, I guess, and that was a remake of the 1954 one with Judy Garland and James Mason, which was a remake of the original, the 1937, Janet Gaynor and Frederick March. So it's a story we've seen before.
Yeah.
Is out there to be seen anyway. I've only seen the 70s one, so this one modernizes it, I think, quite well actually. But yeah, I don't think you need any knowledge of the story going in. Actually, I think it benefits you if you have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that was the thing, is that I had no idea where this was going to take me, and this took me on an emotional roller coaster. And it's really a tale of two movies. There's like the meet cute and the love story of the first half, and then the tragedy of the drama of the second half. Um, it probably is important to start this off by talking about how Bradley Cooper, this is his directorial debut, and he also cast himself in the starring role. Um, so he really wanted to make this his movie. And as Jackson Maine, a troubled, mid 40s rock star, kind of reaching that point of his career where he's now like a legacy act, and he's he's an alcoholic. He's a troubled person with a troubled past. Very few like close, vulnerable, intimate relationships, and he meets Lady Gaga, Allie, and she brings out the best in him. What do you make of Cooper kind of putting himself in this role where he, is playing this troubled person that fits a lot of the troubles he went through in his own personal life, being a recovered alcoholic, and I think that there's some stories out there about how he's very close to his mom, but never really seems to talk about his father very much.
About Jackson Maine, really, not about Allie, you know. So I think it's a really like a money part. So I think if you had to pick one, you probably should just. And then Cooper finally got on board and he actually stayed on the Star. And again, I think it was an interesting choice to direct yourself in your directorial debut. That's pretty ambitious, I would say, especially for a movie like this that has a lot riding on it. But it clearly worked out.
Yeah. And he did a lot of work for this too. Didn't he go to not only a vocal coach but a voice coach? So he spoke differently, he lowered his voice like a whole octave. He really, I mean, put a lot of work in for this. Almost approached it, with kind of like an athlete might approach the season by training in very specific ways. And I thought he was phenomenal in the role. I actually think Gaga's performance is a little bit more impressive because, like, this movie, like you said, was about Jackson Maine, and she had to basically play like this side part where, I mean, parts of it didn't. I don't even agree with or understand why they made the choice they did, like to make her, this very successful or not successful, this very good songwriter who then all of a sudden just chooses to make shit work for fame, which doesn't really seem to fit totally with her character. But at least I didn't think so.
It did feel like it was missing like a scene of her pushing back with the A&R from label, right?
Right.
Like Jackson kind of alludes to it early on, like, oh, get really big, and then they're gonna try and change you, and change your hair, use backup dancers, right? Like, I think it's a criticism of mainstream music acceptance and making success, and Jackson obviously was someone who pushed against that, right? But we never got Allie, either accepting it and saying why she's accepting it to chase fame after struggling for so long, or pushing back against it for the very same reasons. We we didn't get either one of those. It just seemed like that was kind of omitted, and that was probably because the movie was focusing on Jackson, Maine
Yeah.
at the time.
But Cooper really pulls off like the rock star vibe. I even thought the songs in this. Now I'm pretty sure he like enlisted what Jason Isbell to help him with the music. But I thought the song sounded great. Like the first song, Black, or I think it's just the intro is what they named it here, but or Black Eyes maybe. But um, where he's like playing at like a Coachella type festival looks like. I thought that song was great. I also thought really liked Maybe It's Time, and obviously Shallows is the standout from this.
I think what's so cool, like the movie really enriches the music, original music for a song about music scenes themselves are really as found after Eddie Vedder, but he's like from what I was reading, he's actually like loosely Jackson Maine's loosely based off of the Kings of Leon dude.
Ah,
And he also like drinks as much as Bon Scott, the first AC/DC singer. You
hmm,
know, he doesn't sound like either. Like it's really interesting the kind of composite he is, and he looks, of course, like Father John Misty.
yeah.
Um, the funny thing actually I've seen going around, it doesn't hurt the movie, but as like a legacy, like folk rock slash country rock act, a Coachella, big stage at an old like it's just weird. Like is he like a solo act who's like as big as Mumford and Sons or something? Because I was just trying to think of like what's a realistic like comp to him in that genre.
I kind of think like almost like Tom Petty. I mean, like maybe I don't really know who else it could be. Yeah, that's a good question. I think like he probably sounds more like Eric Church or like one of those type of guys, but Eric Church obviously younger and not like a legacy act. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Also, I loved all the like comments about how the people who bought tickets to his concerts, you spend like $200 to be down in the pit for Jackson, Maine, and then the closer is a song with his girlfriend that he wrote like 2 days ago. It's like what the fuck? Like you're waiting for like your favorite song to come on, and that it's be a very frustrating movie going experience. Um, yeah, I I think I think the first half of the movie is probably my favorite part, but I mean I think the whole movie is great in general. But like I said, it's kind of distinctively split. But that whole like them meeting each other, figuring each other out, the scene in the parking lot, the scene where they sing "Shallows" for the first time together, like those are like the moments I think I remember most from the movie. Um, and when I think about the second half of the movie, I just think about a lot of a lot of sadness, and it's actually I think that's why I think the movie is made so well and done so effectively is it's manipulative in a lot of ways, which I think it's done in the best ways that like old school Hollywood kind of used to do. Similar to La La Land is that they use certain tricks to elicit certain emotions, and that's kind of pulls you throughout the movie. And uh, really impressed with Bradley Cooper's debut, but even more his performance.
Yeah, and I think the movie itself is probably the most purely cinematic film I've seen since Sorry to Bother You. You
Mm,
know, and that first act and a half that you mentioned, I think is just really dynamite. Uh, the script, I think, throughout, I think is very tight, but it really does not waste any scenes, any moments in the beginning. And courtship is something that we see all the time in film, right? But it almost is like unconventional the way that we see this. It's not like instantaneous. It's
mhm,
a little drawn out, and I think Anthony Ramos of Hamilton fame, small role, but I really liked his presence in the movie. Um,
mhm,
and yeah, I think it's such a crowd pleasing film while maintaining a high quality. It's honestly it harkens back to Oscar films, Oscar favorites of the last decade. The '90s.
mhm,
Where movies that were popular and well liked were also really good and awards contenders. It's a nice throwback in that regard, and I think it's very justly going to be in the best picture conversation throughout the year. I think working against it will be that it's coming out at the beginning of award season, so we will see a lot of Cooper and Gaga. You'll see and hear a lot about this film, and as other stuff comes out, and again, a lot of talented directors still waiting to release their films wide. There'll inevitably be some kind of backlash, but I'm positive it will last. I mean,
Mhm.
over 40 million its opening weekend. It's gonna have like a La La Land type commercial success. It should last. Uh, it probably be in theaters longer than Venom, even though Venom nearly doubled it over
Yeah.
here in the first weekend. So that's great. Um, I saw this going around and thinking about it more. I wasn't thinking about it in the moment, but the passage of time in the film, as well as the
Yeah.
location and settings, is just rather unclear throughout the
Yeah.
movie. And there's certain touchstones, right? Like she puts out an album and then she becomes a Best New Artist winner at the Grammys. We know when the Grammys happen, we know how eligibility works, but it's like, is her whole whirlwind in like a year? You know,
Right.
or it's just unclear.
Yeah, her SNL performance, season finale usually ends up around May. So then the Grammys are usually February. So that's like what, 9 months?
Mm-hmm.
Where you don't really even like see them really. It's like I think there's a fight and then they go to the Grammys. Maybe I'm misremembering the sequence of events. Yeah, the passage of time and like you said, the location. I went with my girlfriend Julianne, who her hot take, seeing all the trailers, was that this movie is going to be terrible, and she loved it. Like she thought it was a little sad, and she's like, I'll probably just watch like the first like hour and a half of the movie next when it comes out. Um, but she really liked Cooper's performance. But she said, like, did they drive a motorcycle from New York to Arizona? And I was like,
I hope
no. Yeah, I was like, I don't think so. I think it was like a suburb of Los Angeles or like maybe Northern California. But yeah, just like some of the details of it and some of the order of events didn't really make sense. Um, but the thing about this is that, like you said, it's the story of these two. It's really Jackson's story, and the supporting characters in it. Sam Elliott, Andrew Dice Clay, um,
Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. I thought when they got a chance to be on screen, they all killed it. Especially the scene that will probably stick with me the most, and this is a very like typical Mal, I think, take from the movie, is the scene in the driveway between uh, Jackson and his brother when he tells him that it's really him he idolized and not his dad, and then he's trying to like back out of the driveway and with tears in his eyes. It's such a powerful scene, and I think it also speaks to how well the dialogue in this movie was written. It's almost like too realistic in ways, like the way when they're sitting in the parking lot, I forgot what they said at one point. I think Jackson said something like, I think you're beautiful. And like, as he like keeps talking, like Gaga says over him, oh, you're sweet. Like, and I was like, most times it'd be like a back and forth, but her like speaking over him a little bit was like the perfect like way to like write the dialogue. It just felt very smart and very like true to me, which I appreciated. Um, not really a bad thing to say, other than a couple of the choices I don't know if they made total sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And obviously the movie gets sadder, darker the way
Mm-hmm.
it ends. I think the movie is so successful because it really builds tension
Yeah.
expertly. Whether starts out maybe just being a little cringy, or sense of disappointment on the part of the audience, and then I mean, I remember like I saw this on a Wednesday night. It was like a cool like fan event, so I actually didn't see any previews,
Mm,
which was cool.
nice.
So it was pretty packed though, obviously, as you can imagine. And when he first like relapses and like he grabs pills, like there was a whole like gasp in the audience, an audible gasp, and everyone's just disappointed and like, oh shit. So we
Mhm.
kind of knew it was going to happen. Of course, you knew if you had any knowledge of the older movies, but seeing it happen, it's just like it's one of those real things where the movie is so well made, the character is so well drawn that you're actively like rooting against him, yelling at the script, like, no, don't do that, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I think the Grammy scene really, really jumped out to me just because the SNL I thought worked well too, and those are scenes that we did not know existed. They were not in any trailers or anything. I think
Mhm.
Halsey had a like Instagram like thanks for letting me have a small piece of this amazing moment. So I guess we knew Halsey was involved somehow, but I still wasn't thinking Grammys.
Right.
Um, and that scene unfolding is absurd. And then
Yeah.
I mean, heck, I really like the A&R producer character because they never really made him seem like just a like he could have been too cartoony or too
Hmm.
evil or whatever, right? But no, and he was like, when he basically like puts his balls on the table and it's like, Jackson, you're fucking over Allie, and by staying married to you, she's looking bad and things like that, right? And it just a lot of that stuff seemed actually quite realistic to me.
Hmm.
Even though it's not as enjoyable watch in Act Two and Three, I still think the movie like really hammers home. I actually really like to watch it again with the emotional beats now,
Right.
in my head, like knowing what's gonna happen. I really like to see because I can just watch it closer. But through one watch, I think it's cinematic, crowd pleasing, and filled with great performances, and the music's awesome too. There's really no flaws.
I didn't know Gaga had this in her. And I think that's why for me she wins the movie because I really liked Bradley Cooper. I thought he was pretty good in American Sniper for some of the I think the problems that
Mhm.
movie has, and
Living
um, I just think Gaga really being able to go toe to toe for him in this role that I think he's probably going to win the Oscar for unless another performance comes about. I mean, there's a couple on the
Chalamet.
horizon. Yeah, and Gosling uh might steal it too with First Man, but I hear Beautiful Boy actually is not getting great reviews so far, which is
Yeah, I think the movie is mixed. It'll probably not be a Best Picture nominee, the way Call Me by Your Name was, but I'm
mhm,
expecting nomination
Chalamet to get that.
at least Timmy.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I actually right now, given what I think of the race, I think Gaga actually has a better chance.
yeah,
At I mean, if the momentum continues, you figure Best Picture and Gaga are probably locks for nominees. Cooper
definitely.
probably gets the Best Actor nominee as well. And that heck, the movie's like really moving, really doing well. Heck, Sam Elliott maybe could even get one. I think he's probably not in the movie enough to justify that. Kind of like
Mhm.
a Michael Stuhlbarg from Calling by
Yeah,
Your Name, for example. But no, no, we got a few months before we see how that goes. But I put my money on Gaga over Cooper right now.
interesting. So it'll be something to look out for. Yeah, go see A Star Is Born. It's a really well done movie, and there's not any aspects that I think you can look at and say like, well, that wasn't that great. Like we said, a couple of the choices maybe didn't make total sense, but otherwise it was really good. So check it out. Yeah, and check out Venom if you want to, really appreciate this movie even more. Because after seeing A Star Is Born, then going to see Venom, I was pretty disappointed this weekend. So
And guess what? They both have the same director of photography. Wouldn't know it though.
wouldn't know it.